Hey mini enthusiasts, how are you doing? Welcome back. I hope you're well and I hope you're having a great day. So today we're back on the Racing Green, and if you missed last week's episode, I finally got the engine running and drove the car a little bit as well. So it's running and it's driving, just a few little snags and adjustments to sort out. So if you haven't seen last week's video, please do go and check it out. I ran into a few problems, so bit of an unboxing today. And unboxings at this stage of the build are quite depressing. I know you guys quite enjoy an unboxing, but for me, I blew the budget on this car probably about 6 months ago. So every unboxing now is more and more money over the budget. And like I say, at some stage, I will go through all the costings for the car. But I hasten to say, it has cost me a lot of money so far. So one of the bits that I've had to do, which I really didn't want to, so this is a rocker cover that should be on the car. It's an MG Metro style one. I bought this last year, and with the existing roller rockers that were on the car, this just about fitted without knocking. But if you watched last week's video, you'll know that the rockers were, well, for one, the MED roller rockers wouldn't even nearly fit under this rocker cover. So I had to fit a standard rocker cover off PL, and even on that, it knocked every time. So, yeah, couple of things run through my head. The old rockers that were in there, not confident in them at all, because one of the valves on that head, when it was all taken apart, actually, one of the valves, the tops of it, wouldn't come through the guide because the top had been, looked like it had just been battered, hammered, and I'm assuming that might have been a problem with the rockers. So putting the old rockers on, not a problem. I have got a set of brand new 1.3:1 mini spares rockers, and I could try and fit them on the car and see whether they clear under that cam cover. So that's still an option at the moment. I'm going to leave that option open, but I don't want to use the mini spares ones because the ones that MED do are specifically made for 998. They line up perfectly. Whereas the mini spares ones, or mini sport ones, sorry, are a bit of a compromise. They don't line up with the valves perfectly. So I've taken the plunge and I've ordered a very flashy looking MED rocker cover. Now this, you get rocker covers like this, they do these at mini spares, mini sport, this square type one. But what MED actually do with these, they're machined inside. So I don't know whether you can see, there's machining marks, and they probably take off. There's probably in places, probably only a couple of mil there, but this rocker cover will fit the MED roller tip rockers, so you need to run this rocker cover. It is very, very nicely finished. It's not the usual, it's just like it's been polished up a little bit more. Obviously you get the lovely engineered MED logo on the front. And they just, looks like they've machined all the faces on it, but they've definitely done a bit of machining work inside. So I would like to run that for originality, but to get those roller rockers working properly, I'm going to run this rocker cover. Once it's got a splash guard over it, you're not going to see that bit anyway. But yeah, it's very nicely machined. Only thing I would say with this, what do you pay for an alloy rocker cover nowadays? I think that one was about 50 quid, £95 those MED ones are, so you are paying a premium price. But saying that, you get 95 quid, you do get the nuts with it as well, and they're top quality. So what's in the box? This is really just, again, it's bits I didn't know I needed. So first thing out of the box, and this is probably one of the more expensive items I've had to buy for the car. And again, it has been sort of no expense spared with this car. I haven't really skimped anywhere with it. If it's needed it, I've got it, and I've genuinely got good quality or genuine parts. So what we have here is a brand new AP brake servo. think that was nearly £300, might have been 280. The brake servo was leaking on the car. When I actually took it up and down the road, I did comment to Paul. I said, the brakes feel naff. They really don't feel great. Then when we got back here and I'm listening to it running, you could just hear a constant hiss, and it was from the brake servo. So no mucking about. I could overhaul that old brake servo because you can get the diaphragms and that for them, but I've never given it a try. I mean, they're pressed over at the end here. I don't know what it'd be like to overhaul one. If you've ever done one, let me know. So brand new brake servo. As you know, it's got a brand new master cylinder on it as well. There's no point messing around with braking components. They need to be right, don't they? And then aside from that, big box, little bits. An exhaust hanger for the centre exhaust bracket. So I ordered the exhaust system from Maniflow. It's a Maniflow full system with a full fitting kit as well, but it didn't have that bracket in there. So Maniflow, you owe me a bracket. I'm missing the bracket for the gearbox, so that's the bracket for the gearbox at the front, which goes onto the LCD manifold. I've just got some new clips for the splash guard, and then I've bought a pair of rocker cover T-bars. You'd have seen in the video, actually, when you've got the roller rockers on there, you need to move the rocker cover around and adjust it to get it to align properly. So I just thought with T-bars it's going to be a lot easier to do than faffing around with a nut. And then finally just some new hardware, some new rubbers for the rocker cover, etc. And that is it. Hopefully the last unboxing, but you never know. I honestly don't think there is anything else, but like I say, the unboxings never end really, but it would just be nice to get to a point where it's MOT'd, it's taxed, it's driven, and then, you know, the build is done then. Anything you do to it after that is sort of supplementary to the main restoration part. As soon as I know everything is good on it, I will do the final tot up and a video on it, so that's going to come soon. For now, let's get these parts fitted. Let's get this rocker cover fitted, this servo. Let's see if we can sort out those problems, because I couldn't set the mixture on it because it was leaking air, obviously, so it would have been making it run lean. I don't really want to do that. So let me get all these bits fitted and we'll be back in a moment. Right, straight off the bat, I think I've messed up. So I've just run it up again quickly, just to confirm the servo was leaking. And I've had a good listen, and what I actually do, if you want to be sure, when it's running, just get a bit of like brake cleaner or carb cleaner and just spray it around the joints. And if it's leaking, you'll hear the revs pick up, because obviously it will suck in the fuel and it goes into the carburetor then. So just checking, making sure it wasn't the servo pipe that was leaking, definitely not that. But it was leaking through the front of the servo here. Well, the servo works by, it's got a diaphragm sort of halfway at this point, diaphragm here. So this side of the servo is under vacuum. So vacuum from the inlet manifold, and that's what gives you your servo assistance. When the diaphragm splits, you get leaking out the back here because it's split. It leaks past the servo and out the back. But when I started up and running, it was leaking from this seal here. So that means potentially the diaphragm inside is intact, and it's just this seal here. There's a rubber seal which goes between the master cylinder and the servo, and I've just looked, the rubber seal is on there, but it pretty much sits flush with the master cylinder. So any sort of imperfections on this face here, it's going to leak on there. So taking them on, that was a little bit rusty. But then I thought to myself, well, it wasn't leaking when I took it apart. So the bit that's changed is the master cylinder. So I've looked at the old one. This is the old one here. Like I say, all crusty on this, but I noticed it had two seals in it. It had that one, which is bigger, and then it had this one on top of it as well. Now, has someone done that because it was leaking from there, or just accidentally fitted, you know, that might be a replacement and then they fitted a new seal on top. But look at the difference in the size of the seals. Let me just whip the one off that's on the car. So there we go. Right, that's the one that's on the car. That's the one that was on there originally. And then for some reason, it had that on top of it as well. But as you can see, there's sort of three sizes. It's like large, medium and small. This original one is definitely fatter than the new one. So maybe I'll just try fitting that original seal on there and see whether that sorts it out. Maybe I didn't need a servo. Let's find out. Right, so what I've done, I fitted that single seal, and again, we're still leaking. I've done exactly what was done to the old cylinder. So I had the big seal on there, and then it had, like, it wasn't a round seal, it was a square seal. So I fitted the square seal on there instead, as well, sorry. And that seals up beautifully. I think the problem is just where there's been a little bit of corrosion on the mating face. It's not making a perfect seal. So that seals up fine now. A way of testing the servo, if you want to test it, making sure it's working, is just evacuate all the air out of it by pumping 3 or 4 times. Don't know whether you'll see this. And then when you start, your foot should go down. So if you'd have seen there, as the engine started, the vacuum builds up, pedal dropped by about ½ an inch. That shows you the servo's working. And then the way I check for leaks, like I say, just get some brake cleaner. If you hear the note change significantly, it's probably leaking. But this sounds absolutely fine now. What you can do sometimes, if you turn off, check for any hissing. There's no hissing there. And then you should be able to get 2 or 3 pumps on the pedal before it goes rock hard again. There you go, 3 pumps, 3.5 pumps, and it's back to being rock hard. So I didn't actually need that servo. So nearly 300 quid I think. So I'll either return that to Mini Spares, put it on eBay, or keep it for a future project. Right, rocker cover next. Right, MED parts absolutely brilliant, but I'm surprised they skimp on the rocker cover gasket. So they send you one of these crap cork ones. They are just rubbish. The only thing it is cut out for the extra stud. I don't have that on my head, but maybe you can't get the silicone ones with a cutout. As you can see, it's got the tabs inside, so locates the gasket beautifully on there. But they're always a bit fiddly, so all I do, very, very simply, just go around, just have a look quickly, clean it off with brake cleaner first, and then all we're going to do is just a tiny dab of super glue in each of those corners. While we're faffing around taking the old rocker cover off, we'll plonk that in place. Just hold it down for a few seconds. And then when you turn that over, then that will just hold that gasket in place for when you're putting it on the car. And you've got no problem with the gasket splaying out either side then. So just as a reminder, there are lovely roller tip rockers. While I'm here, I'm just going to retorque the head quickly because it's been run, it's gone through its heat cycle now, so we can do a retorque on it. And then we'll put the new rocker cover on. The only problems I can foresee is we obviously have these brackets. They may well fit with a couple of spaces then. Might have to fiddle around a little bit. I've got long rocker cover bolts, I've got short ones, I've got the T-bars, I've got various different washers, so hopefully I should be able to knock up something that works. Right then, retorquing the head is something that can get overlooked, or people just don't bother doing. Every time I've retorqued a head, when I've retorqued it, the bolts have not moved. This time, however, every single one moved by probably only a few degrees, maybe 5 degrees, but they all did just torque down just a tiny little bit, so it was well worth doing. Nothing is ever easy, is it? So it's looking good. Lovely rocker cover that, but I just noticed it's not quite going down all the way. When you have a look down the back here, right down the back, see if I can get it on camera, the rocker cover is hitting that inlet manifold there. So we're going to have to mark that and notch out a bit. Might as well do both ends just to be on the safe side. Yeah, just nuances of minis. Right, there we go. So as you can see, I've notched each end now. Yeah, minis can be frustrating. There's always something, isn't there? Right, got to be honest guys, that was a complete and utter bar steward. Yeah, it did not go easy at all. Lots of fettling had to be done. So I had to, as I showed you earlier, I had to notch the back because of the inlet manifold. Both sides gave me a little bit more front to back movement. And then I had to notch the inside in the corners just a tiny little bit with the Dremel, but now it's fully cleared. It looks the absolute dog's danglies, I've got to be honest. Although it's quite an expensive rocker cover comparatively, it's obviously had the engineering work done on the inside, albeit I needed to do a little bit more, but the finish on it is top notch. You go and buy them at shows and that, they're generally not, I mean, as good a finish as that. I haven't polished that or anything, that's out the box. It's like a mirror finish. Now the only thing is, let me just start it quickly just to show you. So we've got no more knocking now. Maybe with roller rockers, they're a slight bit more tappety than normal rockers, because normal rockers, off the top of my head, you run them about 11 or 12 thou clearance, depending exhaust inlet. On roller rockers you run bigger. I've seen anything quoted for roller rockers from 14 thou right up to 17 thou. I think on the race engines and that, certainly yeah, up to about 17 thou, and I did try that on PL, but it is really rattly at that. I run PL at 15, I think. I set these to 14, but they sound pretty good. The only thing I don't like, obviously, is it doesn't look like a John Cooper conversion, because it wouldn't have had that style of rocker cover on it, and certainly wouldn't have had MED. But as you'll notice, I have fitted the brackets to fit the splash guard on, which it would have had as standard. So let me just put the splash guard on and see what it looks like then. Right, so that is with the splash guard on. Now obviously the John Cooper sticker would have been on probably the front of the rocker cover originally, so I've just obviously put the Cooper sticker on the splash guard. I will run it with a splash guard on because it's practical. I might take it off at shows. The other thing I've done is fitted the MG Metro oil cap. The MED comes one comes with this chrome cap here, but I'll tell you what, from this distance, apart from the oil cap being in the centre, I think visually that looks right. Yeah, I guess the only thing with splash guard on is you don't see the lovely head painted or anything like that. Yeah, you do miss a bit there. So yeah, I guess if you were doing a show in it or something like that, you'd probably have that off, wouldn't you? Yeah, let me know what you think. I think it looks better with that oil cap on it rather than the chrome one. Just looks a bit more sort of OEM. Let me know what you think. The only other thing I did mention, so I had to notch the back, notch a little bit in the corners. I also had to elongate the holes so I could move it backwards and forwards on the rubber seals. Obviously there's a little bit of movement, but there just wasn't enough. I don't know why I've had so much of a problem. Maybe I'll feed it back to MED. But it's a Mini. Yeah, they always have their nuances, like I say.